We're gonna UVTV, motherfucker. I'm gonna kick spiritual ass and do this for my people. Oh God. Neon nigga for feather me. Yeah, and today I'm gonna be talking about overstanding your natural natures and organically getting back to the root of who you are. Now, just in general, right? Nature is just the essence. So, essence is just the scent. You know what I'm saying? It's like an esoteric scent in the atmosphere and stuff like that. As you put it out there to where, oh, this person has a particular temperament and stuff like that. This person has a particular scent, a particular, you know what I'm saying? They have a sort of characteristics and stuff like that. They have a specific quality about themselves. They have a specific style of how they do and go about things, just for the most part. So, the more they understand their personality and this person feels like a genuine person, the more you start to understand the sincerity behind who they are. And basically, like the more you start to understand based upon their characteristics of understanding their own character, they get more into the spirit of something. So they start understanding their space, their creativity, their productivity, and stuff like that. The world that they put themselves in, and that goes beyond the flesh and the mentality of how to look at something. And then your light body is just your mentality, and then your second body is just the physical body that you in and stuff like that. And it's just a process and a transition and stuff like that. So the starting point of how you got birthed into existence based upon you being sentient and you being alive right now, you was already on this train a lot and thinking and stuff like that, and you had to keep on expanding, contracting, and gaining more experiences and more observations and more awarenesses and stuff like that. So you start to understand the observation space of observing these things and stuff like that. So the same way how you can think 5 years ago one way, and then 5 years later you can think a whole different way. Okay, you was observing a lot of different thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions, and it just went through different transitions as you went through different experiences and stuff like that, and you just changed the way of how you looking at something. So it's not about the what were the thoughts was and the emotions that you felt and stuff like that. What did you learn and the wisdom that you gained out of the awareness of the experiences of what you know about and stuff like that, right? And you expanded on that, so you look outside of how you think and stuff like that, and then you was inside of that also at the same time. Oh, you was in that mode or that attitude or that disposition or that temperament of what you experienced at that time of how you chose to deal with your feelings and emotions. But you start to realize just in general, right? It's just the anthropomorphized version of what that is. It's just a mentality. It's just a thought. It's just an idea. It's just a feeling. It's just a title and stuff like that. But you could die tomorrow and stuff like that. You can't take none of that shit with you. So it's always going to be based upon the starting point of what you observing, what you creating for yourself, and what you trying to cultivate and produce for yourself just in general, right? And you're going to understand the essence of who you was based upon your character and your personality and your authenticity and your individuality before it became a mentality, before it became a thought, before it became you know what I'm saying? Before it became materialized into the flesh and stuff like that. So you understanding the masculine and feminine, that thought, idea, feeling, emotion, and then you externalizing that and you internalizing that and understanding the difference in the polarity of both sides of the emotions and the way of how to intellectualize your emotions, aka the logic behind it, just in general. So the more you understand your state of being, just in general, of the type of character that you was based upon your essence, beyond just the flesh, beyond just the mentality and stuff like that, you're able to always stay in a fresh pocket of your own individualistic style and way of how you go about it and stuff like that. So it's never gonna be a thing where you just get caught up in a wave, nigga. You make waves. You ain't getting caught up in a creation, nigga. You're a creator. You know how to create another way of how to show your individuality and your personality in a pocket and not get caught up in a specific way of how to create it and stuff like that. So you ain't getting lost into the validation. You ain't getting lost into the monetary gain. You ain't getting lost into the money. You ain't getting lost into the narrative. You ain't getting lost into the lookership of something. You know what I'm saying? Adultery, idol worship. You ain't getting lost into idol worship. You're willing to make your own internal spaceship and stuff like that of your own space and atmosphere and stuff like that. And then you make your own little program instead of you being programmed based upon societal norms and all that type shit. You know what I'm saying? She go deep. But just in general, right? You have to understand. So when you start to overstand your natural natures, is you getting back to the root of who you are beyond just the flesh and the mentality or the thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions that get made before the actual materialized version of what that get created and stuff like that. So just understanding, manifesting, materializing, manifesting men and women, thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions. So you just understand it. Oh, this is how I think. This is just how I feel about this thing at the moment. But I could feel a different way later down the line as I try to expand on that. The more I expand on that, and I don't get trapped or be in bondage of one way of how to look at it. AKA look at, you know what I'm saying, being in something. I'm throwing more shade and I'm have to learn how to be more lighter. So the more you know how to be more lighter, the more you're gonna have that more certainty because you're gonna try to look outside of the spectrum that you're in, and then you end up learning about some type of spectrum of yourself, learning some type of spectrum of yourself that was in shadows or in the dark, and you start to broaden that up. You starting to lighten that up, and then you realize, oh, I'm actually capable of this mechanism or this process or this awareness or this way of thinking, and I can have a pocket in this since I'm unfamiliar with it, but now I'm starting to get more familiar with it, and I didn't even realize that I actually have some capability when it comes to this area, and I feel more passionate or I feel more enthused coming at it from this angle that I never really expected, because I went outside my comfort zone and I made some familiarity and some comfort within it to even learn, oh, this is a new pocket or a new lane or a new style, and I start to figure out my role. I start to figure out my position. I start figuring out, oh, okay, this is a side of myself that I didn't even realize was even a side of myself. And then regardless of the dichotomy of the positive and the negative and stuff like that, or the light or the darkness, or the yin and the yang and stuff like that, or the external and the internal and stuff like that, right? I start to, or you know what I'm saying, like morality or the good or the bad, I start realizing what start to resonate with my spirit, my space, you know what I'm saying, what resonate with me as a person and stuff like that, and I end up resonating with things that I probably didn't realize I even resonate with and stuff like that. And the more you get into the how you doing it and stuff like that, you're going to end up getting more grace, because you want to experience or self-express or showcase that side based upon the intentions and those pretenses and stuff like that of you trying to understand what you always been doing just in general. So you already knew what that was. It's just you never tried to gain some wisdom or some better discernment or better know-how or better decision making. That's a proper wording. Better decision making when it comes to that area and stuff like that, just in general. So just in general, you have to understand the environment and the scenery and the goddamn, you know what I'm saying? You have to understand the environment and the scenery and the creation of these things before it gets, you know what I'm saying, created into the flesh and stuff like that. So you don't get lost into someone else's creation of how they did it, and you're able to produce and create your own way of how you go about it just in general and stuff like that. And then you're able to play your role. You're able to play your character. You're able to play your one-of-a-kind way of how to go about it and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? You're able to organize and sort that thing out within the chaos, and then you was able to organically and have some type of order of your role and your disposition based upon the position that you're trying to be in, just in general. So the same way how y'all be comparing like nature to like the wilderness and stuff like that. So look at that as like the outdoors or areas untouched by civilization and stuff like that, right? You have to look at that as like an internal nature, just in general. So just the same way how I just broke that shit down. Oh, you understand a spectrum about yourself that you didn't even realize and stuff like that, right? So the same way how y'all go out in nature, in the wild, in the wilderness, outdoors and stuff like that, with the wild animals and all that type shit that hasn't been touched by civilization and stuff like that. Before that, it was just that before humans started to make civilization out of it, just in general. So civilization in nations contains people and stuff like that. So the same way how you have these men and women and these people and stuff like that. Okay, look at the people and the men and women, like thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions. If this was like a internal nature and stuff like that. So you able to create a nation out of men and women. So you was able to create a civilization. You was able to take something that was wild and not domesticated and stuff like that, and or organized and barbaric and stuff like that, and then you was able to make a discipline out of it. So you was able to take the thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions, and the comprehension and the awareness and the know-how when it comes to whatever desire that you got and passion and desire that you have and that goal you trying to go for and stuff like that, of you being uncertain about it, and then you was able to make some conviction or direction or certainty out of it, and then now it turned into a thing that is part of your natural natures of who you are and stuff like that, because you got more familiar out of it. But just in general, the same way how y'all be looking at the outside world when it comes to stuff that don't got houses and stuff like that, and shit that don't got roads and street lights and stuff like that, and it hasn't been it's like untouched areas and stuff like that. It's like untapped potential just in general. So it hasn't gotten civilized yet. Oh, that's a certain awareness or a certain thing that you didn't even know you was into when it comes to your abilities and stuff like that. And then you start to figure out, oh, I'm actually really good at this. Oh, I'm actually really capable when it comes to this pocket and stuff like that. And it's just about how I'm looking at it or how I'm going about it, and not about what I'm doing all the time and stuff like that. So the more you're able to give life and sentience to your ability of being one of a kind, so you're gonna always have that individualistic personality and way of how to go about it based upon the root of who you are beyond just the flesh and the mentality of how you look at it and stuff like that. People are always gonna feel your disposition, right? People are gonna always feel your temperament and stuff like that. So you're able to create the environment and you're able to create the atmosphere of people being a part of your world and your universe and your particular way of how you do it just in general. So that's all we here to do, just in general. It's just in general, you have to learn how to reproduce that. You need to learn abundance. You need to learn how to be rich in spirit. You need to have some type of growth that governs that existence just in general. But when existence get made just in general, that's like you being an entity and shit. I have no idea why I was doing that. Yeah, there you go. So, like I was saying, right, for things to get made into existence, just in general, it had to be created. So, by the time it comes into existence, it's just gonna become like an entity and stuff like that. And then the minute it turns into a deity, aka it got deified and stuff like that, okay, now it got given life. Okay, now it got sentience and stuff like that. So it got brought to life, and then based upon that, it's gonna go through that transition stage of being manifested and materialized. So it's gonna become something of the flesh. But the flesh, we know we're gonna die one day and stuff like that. So instead of beating a dead horse and stuff like that, you have to keep on going through the different processes when it comes to different transitions. So the same way how we in the flesh right now, and then we all know we're gonna die one day and stuff like that. Okay, look at that as, oh, you always gonna be going through different processes of going through different mentalities, different ways of how to feel about something, different emotions. So based upon the emotion that you in, it's just a specific feeling. So based upon that emotion, it's gonna move you and it's gonna motivate you, and then you always gonna expand and contract different motivations and desires after you accomplish the next one. So what was the reason that you did in the first place? So the more you know how to do it from a lighter scale, and it starts to fulfill your spirit or the space or the world or the atmosphere that you're trying to create for yourself, and it's not based upon validation, or it's not based upon the external world too much and stuff like that, right? You always gonna put yourself in a space to where you're always gonna show your character, and your character ain't gonna get crushed based upon you not getting the validation that you got based upon the like button, or based upon the monetary gain, or you getting $1 million and stuff like that. You always want to be able to be in that position of, oh, I'm able to create more, and then that's it. So you ain't gonna be like some bitch ass nigga. You know what I'm saying? You ain't gonna be like a sucker or something. Like you ain't gonna be like you ain't gonna be thinking in the lack thereof mentality. You ain't gonna think in the lesser than mentality. You gonna think less in the feminine mentality and stuff like that. I'm not even trying to say like that's bad. Like you a female and you think feminine, so that's bad. It's because you feeling some type of emotion and feeling and stuff like that. I mean that in a way of like you're more uncertain. You know what I'm saying? You're like walking in darkness, but you're never trying to broaden something up. You're never trying to lighten something up and stuff like that. So based upon you always being in the dark, you're gonna take things less lightly, and it's going to be heavyweight. So it's like you carrying emotional baggage for something you have to let go so you can look at things more broad and lighter again, so you can have some new direction how to go about something. You know what I'm saying? Some new type of frequency that you can frequently do, but you ain't gonna be able to be in that same vibe or be in that same frequency just in general, or frequently be able to do it and stuff like that, or stay in that direction long enough to go the distance because you being condensed in that close interaction. AKA look at that as, oh, you keep on staying inside that comfort zone, but you ain't trying to go outside your comfort zone. And then that's it. Like, so just in general, right? It's just the passion and the things that drive you that makes the organism. So it's gonna make new organs and stuff like that. So when you make new organs and stuff like that, look at that like a mentality, just in general. So new thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions. So the more we have that adrenaline rush and that blood and that fleshy fluid and stuff like that, that makes us have that passion and motivation and stuff like that, it's gonna turn into a mentality, and then it's gonna turn into, oh, we're gonna make and build some new organs all the way down into the flesh and stuff like that. So it's actually a healthy thing to be productive in something instead of being in some office job sitting on your ass and stuff like that all day and stuff like that, and you ain't trying to have some type of physical flexibility, and then that physical flexibility is going to turn to mental flexibility and stuff like that. So you always need to be flexible and not get stuck into one shape and form and getting too comfortable in that one way or one stagnant, stuck, fixated way of how to go about something just in general. So the more you know how to be more creative and in control of that, the more you're going to be able to always have another angle of how to go about your productivity in your creative process, because the whole thing is just a process. And yeah, just in general, when you start to understand the natural natures of who you are and stuff like that, you start to understand, oh, that's the thing that matters more. Oh, the essence in my character. Oh, my one of a kind way of how I like to go about something. Oh, my particular style based upon what naturally, organically, genuinely, sincerely resonate with me. And then that got created out of my experiences. And then my experiences is based upon my environment that I was in and stuff like that. So how I grew up and stuff like that, and the certain ideals that I picked up of my parents who raised me in a certain direction of me learning how to go about it. Even if, you know what I'm saying, like you like a foster care motherfucker and you didn't really have that and stuff like that. So it's going to put you more of a predicament to where it's probably going to take you longer, or it's going to be harder for you. But you able to put yourself in a predicament to where, oh, you're going to have no choice but to learn how to do it in your own way faster based upon you was crippled in certain areas and stuff like that. You get what I'm saying? So it's like a motherfucker who was born into nepotism and stuff like that, but based upon that nepotism, they don't know the hard work that it took for them to even get into that illustrious position just in general, and they just living off the nepotism, but they ain't work hard for no shit and nothing in their life and stuff like that. You just got handed $1 million, but you don't know what the fuck to do with it because you don't understand the mentality of being rich in spirit to make it so they could do that in the first place. And it's never gonna get that lukewarm. It's never gonna get that abundant and stuff like that if they didn't unless they abundantly invested in themselves. So they had to understand who they was and who they are to naturally and organically create that esoteric currency and stuff like that. So them understanding the waves, them understanding the currents of how they see and look at shit, of them understanding their own firmament and them understanding their own feelings and emotions and how to make that a part of the wave, how to make that a certain feeling, emotion, and vibration and relatability and make it relative to their reality to manifest and materialize that into the flesh based upon their passions, motivations, and their desires and stuff like that. And you know what I'm saying? Like shit go deep. It's an internal thing. So you listening to your intuition and your instincts and the thing that's gonna instinctually go with the format of what naturally resonate with you and not just based upon some money or some monetary gain and shit like that. So you have to understand your personality and your character, which is a set of qualities that make you as a person. And um, at the same time, from you being one of a kind, you're gonna be a certain type of person or a certain type of individual to have your own style how to go about something. So it makes you understand your own temperament and create your own atmosphere. And then the atmosphere is just the sphere at most, the word at most, just in general. So you're gonna understand the natural natures of who you was beyond just that. And it's based upon what's created from the earth and stuff like that. So the same way how y'all look at nature and real life and stuff like that, it's something that got created from the earth, but it's something that got rooted. It's something that got it was something made that was like down to earth. It was something made that was organic and stuff like that. And I was just based upon the environment and the surroundings of how it naturally and organically got made, and it's not no synthetic shit. So you always have to restore the ability of going through the power of that process so you can grow as a person. The same way how some shit grow from the grassroots of something in the dirt and stuff like that. Okay, you have to understand the growth of yourself, and then the more you understand the process and the growth and the abundance you can get from that, you start to evolve as a person by going through those different transitions. And then the natural transitions that we see in reality is being born, life, death, and then going through that revitalization process. So being reborn and stuff like that. So you can do it all over again and stuff like that. So the same way how you look at the seasonal transition and stuff like that. During the springtime, things bloom, and then things start to spring off or get born into existence. And then during the summertime is the hottest time of the year and stuff like that, right? Is higher temperament just in general. So someone in a high temperament, oh, they're like heated. It don't necessarily mean they got angry. They're just heated. So from them being hot and spicy, they're being intense. They're being passionate and stuff like that. And then it starts to fall, and that turns into auto time and stuff like that. So it's gonna start to age. It's gonna start to mature. It's gonna start to fall. So that turns to harvest season and stuff like that. So you have to start to harvest all the good qualities that you got from spring and summer, so you can make things better during the wintertime. What's wintertime? It's cold as fuck. It's cold as fuck and things start to be frozen. So that's like you being frozen in time just in general. So you being stuck into one shape or form how to go about it based upon what got accumulated during the spring and summer. And then now you have to make some new way after the winter and the cold, and you know what I'm saying? The winter, the cold, and the freezing time is over. So when spring come off again and things start to heat up, you have some new ideas, some new goals, some new passions, and all that type shit. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I be saying some shit like, I don't know how the fuck y'all start talking about a new year, but the new year is during the fixated portion of winter, aka Aquarius season and stuff like that. And even if you're not some astrology ass motherfucker and stuff like that, okay, you see that in natural transitions when it comes to that in real life. You see that when it comes to the sun rising and the sun setting and stuff like that. You see that when it comes to the daytime and the nighttime and all that type shit. You know what I'm saying? You see that when it comes to the sun rising in the morning time, and then it's gonna be noon, high noon, and then it's gonna be the evening time and shit like that, and then it's gonna be nighttime and stuff like that. So spring, summer, fall, and winter. You know what I'm saying? We see that on the broadest scale. And from us seeing that naturally going on in nature based upon the atmosphere that we in right now of us being on Earth just in general, in the seasonal transitions and the sun and moon cycles and stuff like that, right? We just studying the different time zones and the different ecosystems and the different geographical locations in those specific areas of what gets certain seasons and what the certain environment that basically got created from the land uh, based upon the sky and the atmosphere, and then it makes the motherland just in general. So that's the same way how y'all look at Mother Nature and stuff like that. So is mother being nurtured based upon the atmosphere in the sky that is in at the moment and stuff like that. So like the seasons and like the weather and like the goddamn the landscape and like the plants and animals that get created in that atmosphere. So that's why certain areas have Pacific animals and Pacific bugs that get made on Pacific geographical locations and all that type shit. So I'm basically saying that to say the same way how you see that naturally get produced in reality based upon the environment and the scenery and the atmosphere that is in reality and stuff like that. Okay, that's what you are doing in a internal nature, so you can understand your natural natures and stuff like that. So the more you know how to make it in sync and relatable to the broad way of how to go about it, aka the seasonal transitions and where you at based upon the environment that you in, and understand the atmosphere that you at based upon what country you at, the country that you at, and the spirituality and the practice. You know what I'm saying? The space that people was in to make that a culture, to make that a thing in the first place. The more you try to make it in sync and relatable to where you at, the more it's gonna go in sync with the atmosphere of what got created out of the land, because that's the natural process of how it's supposed to go just in general. So you can look at that as, oh, the Americas, oh, it was mainly some Native Americans before it became the New World and shit getting colonized and stuff like that and capitalized on and stuff like that, right? Before it became that, at one point it was just some Native American land, and the spirituality in the space that was in, the world that was in, was based upon some Native American culture and thinking and what they created for themselves, and they put that out into existence, and then they was able to make the land built up off of that concept and stuff like that, of their ideologies and what they was putting into the air, into the atmosphere just in general, and they was able to basically make a world out of that based upon those people. And then it turns into, oh, the Europeans and them being in Europe, oh, that's their atmosphere. And then if you go to Africa, it's gonna be high percentage scale of the Arabs and Africans and stuff like that, and that's their world. And then you're gonna go to Asia and stuff like that, and then Genghis Khan and Liu Kang and all that type shit, and Bruce Lee concepts and stuff like that, and Shang Tao and Taoism and Tokyo, Japan concepts and stuff like that, and communists. But you know what I'm saying? Based upon that Pacific geographical location, that atmosphere, that's the type of culture that they created and stuff like that. So we in America right now, and then a lot of us is foreigners, and from a lot of us being foreigners, and we not from this land, but we was born here and stuff like that. You have to make it relative to this starting point of how the land got created. You can't turn it into some colonist concept where motherfuckers end up making this the new world and they started settling over here, and then you just think, oh, you can just wash up over what got cultivated to make the land like this in the first place, and you can't just make it a whole bunch of different European concepts when y'all already made that thing over there and then y'all left because y'all didn't like it, and then you try to gentrify that shit over here. No, it's just gentrification. But you're never going to take away the original essence of what it was, because that's the starting point. You know what I'm saying? You have to go back to the original organic roots in the starting point. The same way how you go to the organic root in the starting point of yourself. So the same way how we see that in reality when it comes to, oh, okay, we're still up under some Native American spirit, and it's just Native American, it's just pilgrims or Americans or colonists and stuff like that trying to take over the materialized and the physical aspects of what that is, and based upon the books and the shit they done wrote down to make it is what it is when it comes to society and stuff like that, and making things real westernized and Americanized and Christopher Columbus concepts and stuff like that, right? They're trying to control that part, but the spirit is still going to be that. So you still have to go with the environment and go with the current and go with the space they was in to make it like that in the first place. And the more you know how to make that relative to your own atmosphere, your own environment, your own world, your own nature, your own organic way of how you want to make things start from the mustard seed and get birth from the grass and the dirt and all that type shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, the more you learn how to do it like that, the more you know how to be more relatable in sync to this landmass and stuff like that. And if you want to go over to Asia and stuff like that, you have to learn their ways and stuff like that. And if you want to go over to Africa, you have to learn their motherland and their ways how to go about that. If you want to go to Europe, you have to go to learn their ways of how to do that. Even though if you in America, it already gets shown how they gonna do it just in general from cosplaying. But that's a That's a different concept. That's a different video. Anything when they start talking about, oh, this shit got Americanized, oh, you just talking about, oh, shit got Europeanized, and then it's just some person in a suit and tie controlling it and shit. Like, yeah. So for the most part, yeah, that's just the starting point of how to get there, of just overstanding your natural natures, of organically getting back to the root of who you are, just in general. So the more you know how to get back to the root, the grassroots of your divine natures and stuff like that, the same way how y'all look at the celestial bodies like the sun and the moon and stuff like that, so you understanding the heavenly bodies and stuff like that, so you know how to make your own internal heaven. And then the eternal heaven or something, or the heaven or something, is just the home of God. And then God is just all possibilities, not a deity, the way they try to paint it when it comes to religions and stuff like that. So the more you learn how to create and cultivate your own way of how to go about it that resonate with your specific way, but you know how to make it resonate outside your comfort zone, outside of your world and your space and stuff like that, of the outside atmosphere and the outside natures and stuff like that, the outside landscape just in general, and you able to make it a part of your landscape and your environment and your local area and stuff like that, or your subjective point of view, how to go about it, right? You're able to make it a part of the worldly view, and you're able to make your own worldview, but you're able to make it relative and relatable in reality, to make it look like it's a thing or like a pocket of what you could fulfill, and you can make it a part of the overall world and stuff like that. The more you're able to make it more in sync, the more you're able to channel things through God, aka all possibilities just in general and stuff like that. And then the more you start to understand your individuality and your authenticity and your natural way of, when it comes to your individuality and your way of how to go about things, and just in general, all of our subjective point of views make the objective point of view just in general, not the other way around where, oh, objectively it has to go like this, but it's just, you know what I'm saying? If you start to go against this method, the same way how motherfuckers, when it comes to making up mathematical proportions and variables and stuff like that, or the scientific method and stuff like that, and the minute you start going against their method, oh, now you just some pseudo science ass motherfucker, where when all science is just some motherfucker trying to make some technology, some motherfucker trying to control the program, control the system, control the variable and stuff like that, and not make it so you can be in a position to create your own. You have to be under their creation. So they gonna always need your ass to uphold that position, instead of them being self-sufficient to where they always can depend on their natural natures, and then people are gonna naturally and organically come to them, not no monetary gain of, oh, I got all this money, that's why I'm in this position, and this nepotism and all that type shit. But you don't know what to do with it. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not that creative and stuff like that. You stuck into someone else's creations, and you ain't trying to create your own circumstance and own culture, own enterprise, own business model and stuff like that. You just on a model of someone else's business, and then that's it. That's it.